Hello and welcome to Take 10. I'm Jennifer Johnson. With us in the studio today is Bob Hellmuth, Director of the MCPS Department of School Safety and Security, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
This is unfortunately a very important topic after the Newtown shootings. I asked you before the cameras were rolling, have you heard from a lot of parents with concerns and suggestions since that happened?
We have. We've heard numerous parents. And some of them, and not just parents, we've heard from community members too, and some of them, have some pretty good suggestions that we're going to look at, and of course some of them out there have some suggestions that probably aren't right for MCPS and for the county.
How, in general, how safe and secure are our schools in this county?
Our schools are very safe. Schools nationwide are safe. They're the safest place a child can be, is inside one of our schools. We have a lot of things in place. We have emergency plans. Every school completes an emergency plan every year. That plan is reviewed and approved by staff from my office. We have emergency drills. We have 3 different types of alerts. We have lockdown, evacuation, and shelter, depending on the nature of the emergency. All of our staff and students are trained in those procedures. We do 4 emergency drills, scenario-based emergency drills a year, in addition to our 10 fire drills. So we're prepared. We are prepared to handle manage a situation should it arise.
Do you actually prepare for things like somebody entering a school with a gun? Is that one of the things you do?
We do. The scenario drills that we recommend the schools do, one would be an armed intruder, one would be a community-based incident, one would be severe weather, and then we practice our parent-child reunification plans.
So you actually go through, this is what the teachers need to do, this is what the kids need to do,
That's
this
correct.
is what the people in the front office need to do.
That's correct. And we do it ahead of time. We start our drills immediately. We do our training is ongoing throughout the year, but we give the training at the very beginning of the year so everybody knows what's expected of them.
In the elementary schools, are all the doors locked in elementary schools? Do you have to go through a certain procedure to get into them?
Most of those buildings have now the access control system. The remaining buildings that don't have them will have them by the start of the next school year. And yes, there is a process. So the system is consists of a camera, an intercom system, and a remote strike lock release. So if you're a visitor, you come up to the building, you push a button. The people in the office can see you. They ask you who you are, the nature of your business there at the school. And then if they get a satisfactory answer, they buzz you in and instruct you to come to the office to sign in.
Okay. And what about middle schools? Is that the same, or are those doors open?
No, the doors in the middle schools, all doors are locked except for the main entrance and any doors leading out to the portable classrooms. That's the same thing for the high schools. The same rules apply. High schools are a little trickier because we've got kids who drive and they come in through, a different door, and we've got people coming and going all day long for a lot of different reasons. But we also have security staff in our high schools and middle schools that can monitor.
Back to this, the security cameras and the locked doors in the elementary schools. You said that is not in place in all the schools yet, but will be by next, August, September.
That's correct.
Is that because the Newtown thing, or was that going to happen anyway?
No. This was already planned. This was a 6-year initiative to put these access control systems and visitor management systems, and including the CCTV for secondary schools. It was a 6-year plan. We're in year 5 now. Okay. We're going to accelerate it thanks to some work from the Board of Education and the County Council. We're going to move the schedule up so we can get all of the access systems in place in year 5 instead of going through year 6.
Back to the high schools, there is a lot of concern among parents that there is not a school resource officer in every high school, and I know that's something you guys have been looking at. Where are you now in terms of the SROs? And before we get into that, SROs are actually real Montgomery County police officers.
That's correct.
Who have guns on them, and they are there to protect the schools. So how many are in the schools now, and where would you like that to be?
When this program started, probably about, it's got to be 13, 14 years ago, there was a plan. It was actually a federally funded plan to put school resource officers in the schools, and the county got a grant for 32 police officers. So the officers went in. There was one in each high school, and there were like 3 or 4 that worked with middle schools. Now, going back to the whole purpose behind an SRO, it was never intended for safety.
Right.
I mean, that was a benefit, but it was intended to go in and develop relationships with students and have students see the police in a different light other than just getting a traffic ticket or arresting somebody. So that was the whole purpose of it. The safety piece is just an added benefit. So anyways, because of budget cuts over the years, we're now down to 6 Montgomery County police officers, and then we have Gaithersburg City has an officer and Rockville City has an officer. So we have 8 in the county. It's difficult for the county officers to have 4 schools, basically on average 4 high schools to go to instead of having 1. When we had 1 for each high school, they also did provided service to the middle schools within that cluster, and even to the elementary schools. If an elementary school had a problem, they called them. Most of these officers will still do that if they have time, but it's just very difficult when they have so many schools.
So the plan now, or the hope now, is to what? 2
members of the council, Craig Rice and Phil Andrews, are talking about increasing, at least doubling the number. So if that's the case, we would have 12 next year. That would mean that each one would have 2 high schools instead of 4, and it would give them just more time that they could spend in actually getting to know the students and interacting with the students and engaging the students. I think it'd be a big plus.
Right. Are you hearing from parents that they would like that, to have a police officer in every high school?
You know, it's not so much that that I hear from parents coming out and advocating necessarily for it. I mean, there are some that are doing that, but I don't think there's anybody who wouldn't like to have an officer assigned to their child's school.
Right. Wait, do you hear, you know, there's been all this talk about arming teachers, which, you know, as a parent I think is ridiculous, and I can say that as a parent. What do you hear that from people saying that to you as the head of school safety and security, and what's your response to that?
You know, there have been a couple of people who said that. I think the majority of people don't want to introduce guns into our schools, at least any more guns than let's say a sworn police officer would carry. Our teachers are educators. They're not police officers. They're not trained to use weapons or to confront an armed person. No, I don't support having guns in the schools at all.
And neither does this parent. What about portable classrooms? I know that there are, you know, there's concern about the safety of those.
Sure. So portable classrooms are a necessity.
Right.
We have more students than we have space for in our building, so we have portable classrooms. And we have procedures in place for them too. You know, the doors are locked. Depending on the nature of the emergency, if there is one, we might be able to move students into the main building. If it's a shelter for like a community issue, we would just lock, you know, we would keep the doors locked and keep the students in. When students have to go back and forth from the portables to the main buildings, every school has procedures in place for that. They're safe. They are safe. We haven't had any issues with them. Doesn't mean that there's not some challenges. If a school has a problem, certainly staff from my office will go out and we'll develop strategies with the schools on how to overcome those challenges. So,
since the Newtown shootings, have you guys taken a look at the school security procedures, drills, what's in place, and perhaps what needs to be tweaked or improved?
Yes, we have, and I think that probably every school district has. We've gone back and we've reviewed our plans. Schools have been very, very vigilant about looking at their plans also and doing their drills. And so the question comes down to, and Newtown of course had emergency plans too, and the question comes down to what could you change that would have stopped a Newtown incident? And probably nothing that we could change would stop that. The staff up there did a tremendous job. You know, they'd practice their drills. The teachers got their kids into a lockdown situation, and that's what we hope for. I mean, obviously we hope we never have a tragedy like that here, but we practice our procedures so that if something did happen, at least we know how to react.
Do you talk to parents, or is it important to say to parents that a lot of times when something's going to happen, like a Newtown or a Columbine, that someone knows something? Either kids posted something, or somebody's talking about guns in school, there's something on Facebook, Twitter, whatever. Is it important for us to say to parents, keep your eyes and ears open and talk to your kids about it?
Of course it is. You know, parents should always be talking to their children, not just about school safety, but just safety in general. And about if you hear something, you see something, tell somebody. And then it's important when a student comes home and they're having dinner with their parents and they tell their parents about something that's going on, that the parents make sure they report it. You know, safety and security is everybody's responsibility. It's not just the security person or the teacher, it's every adult's responsibility. And we have to impress upon our kids that, you know, they're part of the equation too.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Bob, thank you very much. This is great information for our parents and for our kids. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you for giving us a few minutes of your time. Remember to visit us on the web at the link on your screen. I'm Jennifer Johnson. Join us next time here on Take 10.